you ever met someone who seemed to understand you too quickly? They didn't ask many questions. They didn't interrupt. They simply listened and somehow touched the exact places you never named. You felt seen, safe, understood. And then, slowly, you began to doubt your own reactions. Not because they attacked you, not because they were cruel, but because you were being guided. If a psychopath scares you through force, a dark empath invites you in, and you walk willingly. A dark empath does not lack empathy. They possess it. And that is precisely what makes them dangerous. Unlike the classic psychopath, emotionally detached, cold, impulsive, the dark empath understands human emotion with unsettling clarity. They recognize shame. They sense emotional hunger. They detect the quiet desperation to be chosen, validated, understood. Especially one fear, the fear of abandonment. They don't need control through dominance. They control through resonance. The core mechanism behind the dark empath is a specific combination: high cognitive empathy paired with an unresolved ego wound. They know what you feel, they know why you feel it, and they know when you are most vulnerable. But instead of healing, they learn to regulate your pain, turning emotional understanding into leverage. Not always consciously, not always maliciously. Inside a dark empath lives a contradiction, a desire for deep connection and an equally deep fear of being powerless within it. So they adopt. They don't dominate the room, they read it. They don't impose their will, they align with yours, until your will quietly shifts to match theirs. Here is the uncomfortable truth most people avoid. Dark empaths often appear during moments of emotional weakness, not because they hunt pain, but because pain creates access. When you are uncertain, you unconsciously seek mirrors, and the dark empath becomes one. They reflect your values, your language, your wounds. You feel understood, but what you're really experiencing is precision. They don't break boundaries. They dissolve them, not by pressure, but by permission. And the most dangerous manipulation is the kind you believe you chose yourself. What makes the dark empath more dangerous than a psychopath is not cruelty. It is intimacy without integrity. A psychopath confronts you from the outside. You can feel the threat. Your instincts activate. A dark empath enters from within. They sit beside your fears. They speak in your inner voice. They don't lie blatantly. They reframe. They validate you, then subtly redefine what that validation costs. You begin to shrink your boundaries without noticing the moment you agreed to it. And here's the part most people refuse to face. Dark empaths rarely act alone. They require a collaborator. Your unhealed self. The parts of you that crave reassurance. The parts that fear solitude. The parts that confuse emotional intensity with connection. They don't create the wound, they activate it. And once activated, you do the rest of the work for them. This is not a story about villains. It is a story of awareness. Because the opposite of manipulation is not control, it is clarity. A dark empath thrives in emotional fog, where feelings move faster than reflection, where empathy is mistaken for safety, where being understood feels more important than being grounded. When you slow down, when you sit with discomfort without outsourcing it, their influence weakens. Not because you fight them, but because there is nothing left to exploit. True empathy does not demand access. It does not seek advantage. It does not feed on imbalance. It respects distance as much as closeness. And wisdom begins the moment you ask, Why does being understood by this person feel urgent? So pause. Look back at the people who entered your life when you were uncertain, lonely, or emotionally exposed. Not to accuse, not to judge, but to understand your own patterns. If this resonated, share your perspective, not your story, but your insight. And follow this space if you are interested in exploring the quiet mechanisms that shape human behavior before we give them names. Silence, after all, is where awareness begins.